I'm involved in the second one. And that's coming next year. It's kind of exciting. We can talk about that too if you want when we get to the questions. I also mentioned they got a trip down memory lane next year. Early next year, a book called The Best of the Realms, R.A. Salvatore will be coming out. And Wizards of the Coast likes doing this with their authors. And what that is it's a collection of all my Forgotten Realms stories, short stories, including the Brunner story from like Dragon number 58 or whatever it was, the first notch. All the Entreri stories, all the story, and what I got to do is before each story, I would write a full page explaining what I was thinking, why I wrote this story, what was the point of the story, how did it fit into the books. So it was a lot of fun, and that's together. It's in galleys now, so that'll be coming out to be early next year, I believe. So, as you can see, I've been kind of busy, but it's been a good busy, and it's been an interesting road because I'm doing a lot of new things as well. Got to write with my son, working on a video game, graphic novels. It's very cool. It's very cool. So, having given you the FAQ, what do you guys want to talk about? Who's got a question for me? Go ahead.
What advice would you give to people trying to break into the business?
You know, I knew I was going to get this question. I get this question every time. My answer is always the same. If you want to be a writer, right? If you can quit, quit. And I mean that. Because if you can quit, you're not a writer. If you can't quit, you're a writer. Here's what I mean by that. Writers don't write so that other people will read their work. They hope that happens, unless they're really shy. Writers write because they have no choice. Because inside you, there are stories clawing at the inside of your skin to get out. If you don't let them out, you'll never be happy. So if you want to be a writer and you can quit, you're not a writer. Quit. Because the business will kill you. If you're writing to become rich and famous, I want you to look around now at all the books in here and understand that of the living authors who have books in here, 3% are making a living at this. The other 97% have a hobby that pays a few bucks and not even minimum wage, if you think about it. That's what it is to be a writer. The other thing it is to be a writer is I wake up every day with a term paper due. That's my job. So, if you can quit, quit. Now, on a practical level, whenever you're writing something, whether it's for school or a short story or a novel or whatever, don't be lazy. And what I mean by that is you have to do the things right, the little things right to make the big things work. You need to read the book out loud to yourself. You need to hear it. Because when you do that, you're reading it the way a reader will read it, and you're not just flying through. If you're just reading to yourself, HTE will look like the. But if you read it out loud, you'll catch the typo. So that's my advice for writing. As far as breaking into the business, I have no idea at this point because it's changing so much. Yes.
Jumping to the Drizzt series, what was the inspiration for some of the, I would say, more of the oddball characters like Thibault, Dwarf, Gwent, Athrogate, and my personal favorite, Jarlaxle Banner? Was there like an inspiration behind those, or?
Yeah, you need some comedy in books. More than anything else. Actually, Jarlaxle's a funny one because, yeah, you familiar with the literary term Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Does anyone know what that means? Who knows what that means? Okay. Deus Ex Machina, the best way for me to describe it is it's generally speaking a very bad writing mistake. And what it means is if you had a hero and the dragon was taking out the countryside, nobody could stop this rampaging dragon. And you go through, 390 pages of a book and nobody can stop it. And on the 391st page of the book, the hero gets knocked down by the dragon, knocks over a rock, and under the rock there's a sword that has the dragon's name on it. And he turns around and stabs the dragon falls dead. So it's like the gods intervene, Deus Ex Machina. The gods intervened, the hand of the gods came in and saved the day, essentially. And it's really bad writing, usually. H.G. Wells, I say usually because H.G. Wells did it in War of the Worlds. Remember War of the Worlds? Martians come down and they're hitting them with nuclear bombs and tanks and guns and they can't hurt them at all and then they all die of the cold. But he did it right. He got away with it. I don't think anyone else did. But I wanted to get away with it. So Jarlaxle is my walking Deus Ex Machina. Jarlaxle's got a Batman utility belt. Right? Jarlaxle goes in, and no matter what's going on, he's got a ring, an orb, a wand, a staff, an eye patch, a hat, a cape, something that will make everything okay. So for many books, Jarlaxle was just that. He would come, he would do his cameo appearance, whether it was Starless Night or whatever. He'd do his cameo appearance, he'd pull out his Batman utility belt, he'd fix things, and then he'd go away. That was Jarlaxle, and I loved it. Now, about 10 years ago, I decided to write a book featuring Artemis and Trivet, and I paired them with Jarlaxle, a book called Servant of the Shard. And I was excited, because I love Trivet, and I really wanted to know what this guy was about, and Jarlaxle's cool. But as I started the book, and I only had about 4 months to write the book, I realized, oh, I'm really in trouble here. Because for all those books that Jarlaxle had shown up in, like a dozen books by this point, or whatever it was, and all the little tricks he had pulled, I had no idea what he had for equipment. Think about it. You know, what did he burn out of charges? What did he use up? What magic items did he lose? Which ones did he find? I had no idea. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to go back and read all these books with a highlighter, and this is going to take weeks, and I've only got 4 months to write the book. So I went to a message board anonymously. And I started a thread. And I said, hey guys, let's inventory Jarlaxle's cool items. And 2 days later, I came back and downloaded like this 10-page thread. You guys are great. Page numbers. They didn't just have what the items could do, quoting the books. They had what they thought they might be able to do as well. All the stuff he lost, all the stuff he found, with references back to the books. And I get out my books and I'm like, yeah, there it is. So, thanks a lot, really. Fiddledorf, Gwent. Look, I've been beating up on dwarves for a long time. Gwent might be comic relief, but he's the toughest son of a gun ever. And his Gutbuster Brigade is like, that's what a dwarf is, okay? They're not all show. They can put it down and put you down beside it. They are, and but you know, I always love doing humor in the books as well, because you're tackling some pretty tough subjects. You want the books to be entertaining. You want people to be laughing right before you make them cry, right? And I always find that if you loosen people up with a joke, you can get them on the edge of their seat when the battle actually starts. So, you know, like my favorite chapter I've ever written is chapter 11 of In Sylvan Shadows in the Cleric Quintet, when Ivan and Pickle are trying to put a rock on a tree. It's a goblin trap, or an orc trap. I was laughing out loud like an idiot when I was writing that. But my favorite oddball comic relief character of all times is a highway halfling named Oliver de Burrows in the Crimson Shadow books. And the only way I can explain is Oliver de Burrows is a cross between the Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride and the little French guy on the wall in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And the way you have to write Oliver is you have to be very clever. He doesn't like say jokes. He's not Fozzie Bear, okay? He just says something, and then 3 pages later, you're supposed to groan and flip back to see if he really said it. And he's like my favorite comedy relief character ever. And the inspiration for that, there really isn't. It just is fun. I like having fun. Life's more fun if you're having fun, right? Who's got a question?
Jarlaxle being one of my favorite characters, a lot of times there's hints of, you know, only Matron Banner knows how old he is and, you know, how long he's been a houseless rogue. Will we get to see any more into his past and kind of how he made his rogue house?
This book wasn't supposed to be this book. This was the last book of my last contract with Wizards of the Coast. And what I had planned for this book, I couldn't do right now because they've advanced the world 100 years and they want all the authors to support that. We're looking forward. But what this book was supposed to be is a book about Jarlaxle and Zaknafane way back in Menzoberranzan, before Drizzt was born. And I still intend to write that book. So the answer is if I live long enough. Okay? But yeah, I love the guy too. I want to see where he came from. And I really want to get back to Zach Nafane a little bit. I want more screen time for him. Yeah, you had a question.
Are we going to see Artemis again?
I don't know. And the reason I say that is because if I didn't know, I wouldn't tell you anyway. But no, when I finished Road of the Patriarch, which is the last book of the series that featured Artemis and Jarl Axel, at the end of the book, they come in and they burn down this church and they get rid of some really bad priests who were doing really bad things in Kalimport. Remember that? And one of the priests survives, and he's not as bad a guy as the other ones. But at the end of the book, Artemis has him at the end of the sword and says, so go back and rebuild your church. And if you do it right and go along what you say you're all about, great. But if you do what you were doing before, I'm going to come back here and burn it down again, and this time you're going to be in it when it falls. So I figured that was Artemis Entreri's moment of redemption, right there. That was the moment Artemis Entreri stopped hating himself. Because only Artemis Entreri could be redeemed by threatening to murder a priest. But that's what I figured for Entreri, that would be the perfect ending for his story. But then a weird thing happened. I started getting emails by the dozens of people sharing these amazing stories with me of their own childhood and how they needed to see this character redeemed. And I don't mean becoming a paladin. By redeemed, I mean being okay with himself. They needed to see him moving forward. So I find it hard to believe I'm done with the guy. But that's all I can say. Okay? Who else has a question for me? Yes?
Please don't kill me, man.
Oh, we have a Stowaway fan. I can't answer that. Last book's coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm starting to get this bloodthirsty reputation, you know? You squish one Wookiee, and they never forgive you. Yeah, or maybe I'm just getting old and bloodthirsty, yeah.
Can you tell that Wubba Wubba story?
Oh, good God. How many people here have heard Wubba Wubba? Not that many. It's on YouTube. I will 5 minutes before the end, okay, of the talk, before we sign books. I'll tell Wubba Wubba. Wubba Wubba is a story about why I game. You'll get it. Yes.
When you were talking about Chewie, did you happen to see his shirt?
Oh. Did you pick that?
100%.
Did you know that October 5th was Remember Chewie Day on Facebook? All right. You're recording this, right? Tell the world it wasn't my idea. Okay? They figured somebody had to get hit, so they hired an Italian to do it. I didn't even know I had to do it until I had turned in the outline. I signed the contract, I put the check in the bank, I turned in the outline, we got on a conference call, Lucasfilm, LucasArts, Del Rey Books, and myself. And they were like, oh, this is exactly what we want. You're bringing the Vong exactly where we want them. Great Pyrrhic victory, blah, 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 exactly what we want. But didn't anybody tell you? You have to kill Chewbacca. And I was like, drop dead. And you know what? To this day, I'm not sure they did the right thing. I'm really not. Because the pain they brought to people with that blew me away. Never mind the death threats I got, which were... I had one woman writing to me, and every day I would get another email from her. I can't believe you killed Chewbacca. How dare you kill Chewbacca? And with each one was getting a little more desperate and a little more angry. Day after day after day. I don't know how you get tear stains on emails. Finally, we got to the end, and I got this letter, and she must have been dictating or something, because you could hear the confusion in her words. She was saying, and I was going to read these books to my kids, and now I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to read these books to my kids? What am I going to tell my children? And I had had enough. Okay, right around the time that book was released, my brother passed away. He was my best friend in the world. I wasn't in a good mood. I shouldn't have done it, but I did anyway. I wrote back to her and I said, tell your kids he's playing with Old Yeller. I should have done that. But I didn't get any more emails.
It worked.